Welcome to KetoMealsAndRecipes.com. Now that I have shown you how easy it is to make a variety of homemade barbecue sauces and spice rubs in my previous videos, in this video I will be using my North African spiced barbecue sauce to make an incredibly flavorful and easy North African spiced leg of lamb roast. At the end of this video I will show you a meal suggestion with all its sides and the associated macro chart for this full serving. The macronutrient ratio for the North African spiced leg of lamb is 1.9 to 1, with 0.8 grams of total carbs, 0.3 grams of dietary fiber, resulting in 0.5 grams of net carbs per serving. I'd like to take a moment and explain why I think spring lamb is a particularly good clean meat and a great choice for our healthy diet. First of all, spring lamb is naturally grass-fed, and the one I bought here, as I'm showing, was raised without antibiotics and is also hormone-free. And spring lamb is a very economical meat choice if you're buying it in the spring, but you can find a good deal almost any time of year. And what's really great about spring lamb is in our global economy, we can get spring lamb 2 times per year, once from the northern hemisphere and once from the southern hemisphere. Now let's get started. Now that you have the North African spiced barbecue sauce, this recipe technically only uses 2 ingredients. Please note that the ingredients and instructions I'll be providing are for the oven roasted version, for which you will need a large enough roasting pot to hold the leg of lamb and a raised rack on the bottom of the pan. The reason for the raised platform is that it will allow the hot air to circulate all the way around the leg, and there's also room for the juices to collect at the bottom. I begin by removing the plastic wrap and then giving the leg a quick rinse under the running water. That's to remove any of the blood or juices. And then pat your leg dry. Place 2 tablespoons of barbecue sauce on top of your leg and using your hands, generously rub the sauce all over the top. Then turn the leg over and do the same on the underside. Also make sure to rub the sides and the cut portion of the leg. If you don't like to use your hands, you could use a pastry brush, but I find that I get a better coverage when I use my hands. When you've spread all of the barbecue sauce all over the leg, place it on the rack in the roasting pot. Put the flatter side down and the meatier part up. Then leave the leg to marinate for about 30 minutes. Or if you have time, or you're choosing to prepare this the night before, cover the pan with either the lid or cling wrap and refrigerate. One last thing, this is my personal preference, so it's not strictly necessary that you have to do this. I like to cut the tendon and meat holding the leg to the exposed bone. I find that when the leg is done, the presentation is much neater. If you refrigerated your leg of lamb overnight and you are ready to roast or barbecue, just make sure you take the meat out of your fridge about 1 hour or so before roasting. This will allow enough time for the meat to get to room temperature. And take a moment to preheat your oven to 370 degrees Fahrenheit or about 188 to 190 degrees Celsius. And to set up your oven, it might be a good idea to place your oven rack in the lower third position. This will allow enough room to put your roasting pot in with the lid on. Then, with the lid on, set your timer for 60 minutes, at which time you can remove the lid and roast for another 30 minutes to crisp up and brown the surface just a little bit. If you're using a food thermometer, which I think is a very good idea, cook the lamb until a cooking thermometer inserted about 2 inches or 5 centimeters deep in the thickest part of the meat registers at 135 degrees Fahrenheit or 57 degrees Celsius. At this temperature, the meat is very moist and juicy. Also, please note that the actual time you may require may be different. It will depend on the original raw weight of your leg, so adjust your time accordingly. When you've taken the temperature of your leg and you've determined it is done, remove the pot from the oven and let it rest for about 30 minutes. While the leg of lamb is resting, baste it using the juices from the bottom of the pot. Do this a couple times. And after each basting, cover with the lid or aluminum foil to keep the lamb warm. Now here's where I'd like you to note that if you're using your outdoor barbecue, I have provided recommended technique instructions in the written description, which is available in my blog. But I'm sure if you like barbecuing, you're already very familiar with your own barbecue and have methods that work well for you. Just one last thing, if you did use a barbecue, baste with some olive oil and cover with aluminum foil while the meat is resting. And now that we're all done, wasn't this easy? Once you make it, you'll find that this is the easiest, most flavorful roast leg of lamb you will ever make. I'd also like to point out how nice and clean the bone looks due to the cut I made at the beginning. But again, this is a personal preference. I think this leg is perfectly done and the aroma is absolutely incredible. The spice blend and the lamb meat is mouth-watering. After tasting this recipe, I converted 2 of my family members who previously did not like lamb. As I cut a few slices, I want you to notice how moist, juicy, and beautifully pink the meat is. You do not want to over-roast the lamb leg, because if you do, it will be very dry, stringy, and tough. Now back to the oven method. If you did it in the oven, you will have some great tasting drippings left in your pan. Use these drippings to ladle some over your cut lamb slices. The drippings are so flavorful, you don't have to do anything other than just spoon it out and serve it. In my opinion, this is lamb perfection. And here are the side dishes I served to make this into a complete meal. And this is the macro chart for all 3 of the side dishes. If these macros are too much for you, I'd like to point out you do not have to serve all 3 vegetable side dishes. Serve any of the 2, or even just one of these, or even some other vegetable side dish like a salad to keep your carbs at their lowest. Just to be clear about the serving sizes and the macros I've shown, I used half portions of my bocconcini and mixed vegetable salad and a half serving of my green bean almondine with a full serving of the Celiac puree, aka my mashed potato substitute. This was a very filling size for my hungry adult guys. I actually reduced my serving size by quite a bit and found it very filling as well. I'd be very interested in hearing what you like to serve with your lamb, so please leave me a comment. Thank you very much for watching my video. I hope you come back and watch the next recipe. The link for the printable North African spiced leg of lamb recipe and all the other recipes I mentioned in this video will be posted in the description below.